Welcome, everyone. This is Pound Needles, and you're listening to LOTRO Players News, where we take a look at latest news in LOTRO and here at LOTRO Players. And this week we have with us Krister
Hello.
and Cinders.
Hello.
Hello there. It is now time for us to look at the latest news here in LOTRO. And while there isn't a large variety of news, we do have a big piece of news, and that is
Yeah, oh
the
yeah, the buzz is on.
Yeah, the buzz on the 64-bit servers. They had a nice discussion with Cordovan and Severlin yesterday, talking about what to expect with these new 64-bit servers. First off, there will be 4 servers, 2 in the US and 2 in Europe. And in the US servers, there will be one of them is going to be Glamdring, which is going to be the regular US server. And there will also be one called Peregrine, which will be the role-playing server in the US. So that means that we're finally going to have an official US member server on there. Now, they were hoping to be able to solve all that transfer trouble they had between the US and the European servers and all that stuff, but unfortunately they could not find a way around it. It's probably one of the things that caused it to be taken until January before they were able to announce the details. Is nope, they could not do it. So yes, it looks like that if you want to be on one of the US servers, you have to be from one of the traditional old US servers. And same thing true then of course on the EU side. For the EU side, the regular EU server will be called Orchrist, and the role-playing server will be called Meriadoc. So therefore,
I hate to correct you, but I believe I've had a good authority that's going to be called Orchrister. Somehow, Pineleaf's silence indicates to me that he doesn't believe what I'm saying, which is probably smart.
yeah. Anyway, so yes, that means that the regular servers will be Glamdring and Orchrist, and the role-playing servers will be Peregrine and Meriadoc.
Now, could somebody do a sneaky double-blind maneuver where they transfer their character from one of the old servers in the US to one of the old servers in the EU, and then they transfer their character
no,
up?
because you can't currently transfer a character from the old.
La 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 la. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear that it works, because then my plan would work. See?
I mean, if that plan would work, then they wouldn't be having the problem in the first place.
Good
Fine.
point.
You know what? Use sense and logic. Okay, that's fine. You know I don't operate in those realms, Pine Leaves. I'm kind of curious if that really would frustrate people or not, because I would imagine the vast majority of people are just going to be moving within their region anyways. You know what I mean? So,
but you do occasionally have some people who usually play on one set of servers, but they're in the region of the other one and would want to move over. Or, of course, if you have somebody who, when they started the account, they were living on one side of the pond, but now they live on the other side of the pond.
okay. So wait a sec. So it's determined where the player actually exists as
No,
opposed to
no, no,
what.
no, no, no,
Okay,
no, no, no,
okay,
no, no.
okay,
It's determined by the server that you're on. But the
okay,
point is, if
okay.
you
I was
have
just
someone who's originally living in Europe and all their characters are on Europe, and so therefore they're on the EU servers, but now since then they moved into the United States, well, all their characters are going to be in Europe, which means that now not only are they in an area where we have all the time zone stuff now, but they're going to have all the lag from getting across the ocean because the EU servers are actually going to be residing in the EU as opposed to in the US as the old EU servers were.
well, but would the hope be, frankly,
Yeah.
that they correct with the 64-bit servers? They correct so much of the latency that the latency that's reintroduced by them being over in EU is the equivalent to the experience right now.
I think you might well have to ask if Sam decides to log in. We could always ask him about it, because Sam he lives in Sweden, so therefore he has the fun time that whenever he plays with us on Arkenstone or Langeable, he's obviously having that wonderful experience of having all those packets coming from across the Atlantic whenever he needs to do anything. And he was saying that he did like how he had a much faster response rate whenever he was playing on the Mordor server.
Well, then you imagine the new servers in Europe would be a big deal in terms of their in terms of really kind of enhancing their experience then, right? So
yeah, I suspect that we'll find that out. I will presume that it gets me going to threads on the Mordor server forum. I don't think I've done that, but if you go into the Mordor server forum, maybe there were discussions there about their ping rates that they have there relative to the pseudo EU servers that they have currently. And I know they also have the thing about 32-bit versus 64-bit. So you also have that working on in there. But anyway,
yeah.
These would be 4 new 64-bit servers, 2 in the US, and the ones in the US will be in Vegas, and then also two that are going to be somewhere in the EU in the same location where the Mordor servers are currently located. All right, now that's out that we have those in there. The next thing that they noted is that on the day prior to these servers opening, they haven't announced the official opening day yet. They're hoping it's going to be sometime in the first quarter. I'm guessing they're going to try to get it into the middle of February, in the middle to late February, but who knows? It all depends on how quickly they get everything working together. But on the day prior to the opening of the servers, they are going to have it semi-open, you could say. In other words, they're not going to be open for play, but it will be open so that you could create characters. But there will be a fixed 3-character limit on there, and the VIPs will be able to go in and be able to log in. Well, I shouldn't say log in, but they'll be able to, I guess, log onto the server at least, and will be able to create up to 3 characters so that they could reserve those names. Because they figured there are going to be all sorts of people with name collisions and the like. So they
without a doubt, yeah.
Right. So I decided to do is that VIPs would be allowed to go in their day. And you say, why the VIPs only? And that's because someone could make a dozen free accounts. And if free accounts were allowed to go into there, that means, you go in with a dozen free accounts to reserve 36 names or something like that, which is obviously counterproductive to what they're trying to do. Is they're trying to have it so that each person has a chance to at least reserve their 3 most important names. Now, of course, for each server, it's going to be first come, first serve. So that's going to be a little bit tricky on that matter. Now, they do have one thing that they noted, and that is that if there is someone long established in the community with a particular name and someone who has no history of using that name snipes the name, then customer service will be willing to entertain a ticket on that. So therefore, for example, if someone tried to grab the name, let's say Cordovan. He's a community manager, so that'd be even worse trying to grab his name. So if someone tried to grab the name Cordovan, and someone who has never had the name Cordovan in any of their characters, and as I look through that account's history list, and they've never had the name Cordovan in there, so they're obviously doing it just to be a troll. In that case, where it's obviously a case of being a troll, the customer service will revert and give Cordovan to the rightful person, assuming they filled out the ticket and all that stuff. And the person who tried to troll it will be out of luck in that matter. But as I said, there'll only be something where there is a long established history on one end and the other person has absolutely no history on it. If you've got, for example, if you're on 10 servers known with a name and there's another person who has, since beta, has had the same name on a different server on there, if they get there, if that person with that one name gets in there first, they win because they've had that name for years.
Okay, do you think that there are any other pine leaves floating out there just waiting?
Well, I know that there's at least one.
It's time to get him.
Because I know there was at least the last time they had server moves and the like. There was one server where I did lose that battle because
oh boy,
there was somebody there.
Yeah, I know plenty of people that have more than 3 characters as well. So
yeah, that's what I say is that I would say the 3 most important characters names to you are probably the ones you want to reserve. Now, did you say something, Cinders?
I did not. I've just been listening and thinking, oh goodness.
So I'm going to wake up at 5 in the morning. At 5:01, I'll register Pineleaf. At 5:02, I'll register Cinders. At 5:03, I'll register Krister. And then I'll go back to sleep and have a nice restful sleep. And Pineleaf is going to be a giant barbarian.
Cinders, I'll definitely report that one.
Cinders is going to be a cat.
Meow.
A cat who raises dogs.
Hey, I think cats would do that if they had the opportunity.
They can control the dogs? Oh, yeah. They kind of do.
They could. They would.
Yeah, that's, of course, I feel like that is just going to be a Looney Tunes moment, too, is the name reservation day, Oh, I guess that'll be a true stress test on the servers.
Well, yeah, it'll be more of a stress test on customer service.
Oh, yeah. Hopefully they have maybe if they get lucky, their whole phone system, their whole ticketing system will just go down.
Well,
but yeah, I can see it's going to be extra exciting. I wonder if you can get into a scenario where 2 people register the same name around the same time, and who wins that claim? So
well, I think in a computer, technically, one of them is going to be first on the internals of that. So yes, I guess whoever happens to get the first packet activation at the time they come in.
Well, I'm sure there's. It doesn't feel like there's any easy way out of it. It is a pain. It's going to be a process that has going to have pain to it. But the end result is moving into a much better environment.
That is what they are hoping. Anyway, as I said, that first day is just going to be there for reserving names. Then, when they're ready to actually open up servers, then people will be able to actually transfer their characters. Now,
okay. So, do you have to, if you reserve the names, do you actually have to log in with that name?
No.
Or you just reserve it and then you can transfer your character over?
Well, yeah, but even if when you transfer your character over, this is the question of what you want to do now, because you have 2 choices when it's time to actually to transfer your character over. One of those things that you can do is to, of course, delete that reserved character and then transfer over your character. And good luck on hoping that no one snipes it during that 2 minutes between that.
See?
Or you could transfer your character over, you get the -1 name, and fortunately, during this time period, renames are going to be free for those who are forced renamed by the system. So that means you probably transfer it over, delete the reserved character, and then rename the reserved character, and that'll give less time. I'd say that maybe sit low a couple of days and wait till things to calm down before going through that rename process to make sure that
Oh, without a doubt. I know the
yeah,
internet would go completely down the moment I freed the name up so I could transfer my character.
yeah.
What do you mean I can't transfer? What?
All right. Anyway, so then we'll have the new servers up. People will be able to transfer their characters or create, and have their normal number of characters and all that stuff into it rather than just the 3 on there. Then you got to decide, all right, Sans Window comes in and she's got about 50
I
characters.
want to say last count.
servers.
I think you're being conservative. I think she has 3,000 to 4,000 characters now.
She would if
I
she
believe.
could.
I know she would. Yeah, that's what I always relied on. See, it was like her and Hera and Ray. It was like if I ever needed to call in an army, I just tap those 3. They would be able to supply me like 15,000 characters right off the bat. And then, then you have yourself an army. So.
Yeah. So you can just imagine is that all right? Because now you're going from however many servers she has characters on to.
The other thing I'm thinking about with this process too is if the process takes 10 minutes, and you have 50 characters, that's like a full, that's like a work day there, isn't it?
Well, no, because what you want to, if you've got enough.
Can you bulk transfer your characters?
I do. I do.
Oh,
I do
good.
that all the
Okay.
time when I do Volver, for example. I always bulk transfer. You just say copy everything, and it will copy. I mean, move. Well, okay, Volver is copy, but in this case will be you just say move everything, and it'll move everything you've got on that server. Well, it cannot move housing. And
which I know is going to be that's probably going to be a little bit.
So
of a sticky
everybody's going to be racing for their old address too.
Yeah. Oh yes, that's the second big thing.
So if you
want housing writs,
if you wanted a kid house in the Rohan housing neighborhoods or whatever, this would be your time to go grab one.
Oh my God! So when they were talking about the United States, were rushing west, they'd have those land things where people are just show up, go out there and put your marker, and there you go, you got your land. That would be so funny if it would be like a set event where you have you have 500 people lined up at the very beginning of the neighborhood, and you're like, okay, go. Whoever gets that house,
Whoever's computer has the least amount of lag. Ken House Land Grab is totally title option now, guys.
Okay, I agree. That's beautiful.
Yes, the Ken House Land Grab is going to be a thing, I'm sure, because any houses you have, or at least any of the ones for the premium housing, are going to have their housing writs that they're going to be created.
Mm-hmm.
And so you got these housing writs, you go into there, and now you say, all right, so is the house at my old address available? And
I can't wait. There's going to be something like, sir, you're rich and no good here. Huh? You're like walking around with Chuck E. Cheese money or something, where it's just like, wait, what do you mean I can't buy a car with Chuck E. Cheese money? But yeah, that's just talking to my kidmates last night. That was one of the things that. But of course, the scenarios that these guys have are great too. Our kid leader literally owns a whole neighborhood, all the houses, and so she's pretty frustrated about the move, and I can understand why.
Yeah, because there's no way. Tough.
Yeah, there's no way that she can do that again. The chances of that happening are very slim. So that's when I was thinking, well, what if they upped the amount of neighborhoods that were there, but that still doesn't really, you can't do a transfer from your old neighborhood to the new neighborhood. You actually have to go and physically go to that neighborhood and acquire the properties, right? So,
I mean, you would have to wait till everything calms down, and of course, by the time everything calms down, most of the houses would be gone.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that's an interesting thing to think about, because you'd think that would be a kind of a big deal with a lot of people. And so the idea would be, when those servers come online, would it be that you can get the houses right away, or would they delay that a little bit while people get their characters sorted and the transfer sorted? And
I think the worlds are going to come up with the housing brokers active.
it's going to be chaos.
It's going to be chaos.
Okay,
Hobbits.
so
Hobbits and Boogans living together.
I just think it would be so funny though to log in and like stand in a housing neighborhood and just watch what happens.
I agree.
Like you get your primary character
Ping,
transferred
ping, ping.
over, and before you get anything else, you just like go into the housing area and you just hang out and watch the chaos of people just flooding and running around looking for stuff.
Okay. I suspect they'll just talk to a housing broker, and then you can see nobody's there, but then the houses are going ping, 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 owned.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that would be the other thing to watch.
Or they could make it an agonizing process where somebody goes around to each house and auctions it off.
Yeah. So I guess that brings up another question, or kind of a question that we can get into later. I have a question now for later on. Okay, keep going. I've got a good question. Keep going. There's a question.
Right. Okay, so that is right. So we talked about the housing neighborhoods and how there's likely going to be chaos there. And I'm not too sure what I'm going to be doing yet on that. I'm probably just going to write it out, wait till things calm down, and then see what's left afterwards. And then one of the things they're going to note is that transfers to the new servers are going to be free. It's going to be free transfers. They're not going to charge you for these because, well, they're trying to encourage people to transfer. It's hard to encourage people to transfer if you're going to ask them to pay for it. So yes, all the transfers are going to be free until further notice. I don't know how long further notice is, but I get the impression it's going to be at least 6 months.
I would think they'd want to be going on for a while.
Yeah, that way, because they're also expecting that after people transfer over, there might be some people say, well, maybe I don't like this server, so I'll switch to the other one or something like that. So they want to give people that because maybe they don't like Peregrine, so they might go to, I guess if you go in Peregrine, the other choice would be, I said Glamdring. Yes, Glamdring. So going back from between those in there will be possible, at least for the time being in there. Now, obviously, you cannot transfer to the legendary 64-bit servers because, they have the usual legendary rules that you can't transfer to those.
Yeah.
But yes, so the transfers are going to be, and as I said, renames are going to be free, at least if you were forced to rename due to a name conflict or something like that.
Well, maybe I'll just, with my other characters, I'll just be out of spite. I'll just start naming them. I'll start naming them Frodo-do, Frodo-do-do-do, Frodo-do-do-do-do, Frodo-do-do-dee-da-do-dee. Or maybe I'll do Pinelane. Pine Lair. Pine Liner.
Did we tell you about Pine Scratch and Pine Sniff? Did you hear about those characters that Sans and I
Of course I didn't. Are you hearing me right now? No, I did not hear of those.
Okay, so
that sounds amazing.
Can I tell this story, Pine Leaf?
Might as well.
Okay, so shortly after the Bjornings came out as a class that you could play, Sans and I were going to play with Pineleaf, and we were going to play on Pineleaf's normal server, which you're going to have to remind me of which one it is because I haven't looked at all of them in like forever.
Crick Hollow.
Crick Hollow, yes. So we got onto Crick Hollow, and Sans and I rolled our characters without talking to Pineleaf, right? And I wanted to play a high elf, a snooty high elf. And so I named my high elf Pine Sniff. Because she just always like looks down her nose and sniffs at everybody below her. And we knew Pineleaf was going to be a hobbit, right? And then Sans really wanted to be a Bjorning, and so she named her Bjorning Pine Scratch. And so we had Pine Scratch and Sniff when we got into the game, and we got him to like level 40 before we got sidetracked doing something else. But yes, Pine Scratch and Sniff are a thing.
That's phenomenal. I love it. Was there an irritation level on Pineleaf when you say names are the right
No,
time.
he did the snort thing that he does, and then he never said another word about it. But my Pine Sniff was a captain. I should say Pine Sniff is a captain. Because I wanted to be able to summon them wherever.
That's good. That's a good thing a captain could do too.
Yes. I was not real happy that I couldn't do it right away though, because I was like, wouldn't it be so funny?
Yeah.
Stand somewhere and then just do a port and see if they'll just take it to wherever random place I'm standing. But yes, Pine Scratch and Sniff are totally a thing.
That's awesome.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Now, I should note that after a few weeks and everything is settled, well, maybe not everything, but the main rush with names and properties and all that stuff has settled, they will open up the dark servers for transfers only.
Nice.
So if you still have characters on one of the dark servers and want to bring them over to one of the 64-bit servers, you can then do so. I don't know, Krister, do you have anything still sitting on the dark servers?
I do, but it's too dark to talk about. No, I don't. I don't have anything.
I suspect I do, but the only reason why I have them is because I've got, more characters called Pineleaf than there are.
Yeah, how many servers have you actually created characters on?
I don't remember, but probably a couple of dozen or something like that. So
yeah. So I imagine that's kind of a good question too. Is people? I wonder if people.
Yeah. I suspect I don't care about any of the characters I have on the dark servers anymore, so I am not going to bother bringing any of those over. I've got enough trouble trying to get characters onto the.
I have an idea that could have helped with their name issues.
What?
If they said, okay, so if you would like to transfer from this server to this server, like into this server, you need to come from this server. So like, say they said like Landreval to Glamdring. If that was the transition you were going to make, like if you thought you wanted to be on Glamdring, you needed to have a character on Landreval first. So then anybody wanting to bring ones from other places, like they would take care of the name change part there and then transfer it from there into the new one. And
they could introduce the last name, and then by default the last name is your server. So when you transfer over, it's unique, and then you can change your last. You change the whole name if you want to. That would be kind of cool.
That would actually solve a lot of the problem too. Pineleaf Landerval, Pineleaf Kirkalo, Pineleaf whatever, and then you would still have your distinct. Then the other Pineleaf could continue to be Pineleaf too.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think Pineleafs think of the same thing I am. I've worked in companies where the software is about 10, 12 years old, which in computer time means about 12 to 13 billion years. Where it's just simply the limitation of the programming language that it was built in, and that we might not have choices like that.
I am pretty certain that having any now, I mean, you could call your regular character name PineleafLand or something like that, and so if I called my Flanders PineleafLand all one word, then that I think would be no problem. But to Pineleaf and the surname being Landerval or Land or something like that, the software will not know that difference between that and Pineleaf Crick or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's fair.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would have been cool too. To have,
we could Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say it'd be cool if you could also have it where it puts your previous server's name as part of your name, but it's nothing that displays. It's just makes that name unique, but you don't see the.
Yeah. That's probably getting close. have a feeling it's something that they don't have in the tech of the game, and if they tried to change
Exactly.
it would be.
Yeah.
I think that's something that they. I suspect they do probably something like that in ESO or something like that. But
They do, yeah. That's the problem with my dreaming. Dreaming doesn't take development time, So
development time, and there are plenty of things that Standing Stone Games really, 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 really wanted to do, but they couldn't do because, well, this is how it was written.
Yep, I know that pain
Well,
very, very well too. It's
I was
very
about to say
frustrating.
15 years ago, but some of those things were probably might even be baked in as far back as Asherton's Call. So it could be over 20 years old, some aspect of it, because
I believe that a couple of the servers are just still purely powered by chipmunks.
most
Chipmunks on tread
likely.
wheels.
Power to the chipmunks. I just was enjoying the idea that we could all live in PineleafLand.
Okay. So when Pineleaf said that, I was like, "There we go. If Pineleaf ever opens an amusement park, we've got the name of the park." So,
Welcome to PineleafLand.
that's awesome.
Right. So yes, but now when the thing about the dark servers though is the dark servers are only going to be up for a little bit of time, and they say that once the dark servers have their time period of being up and available for transfers, they are going to disappear forever. So if
Ooh,
you got
wouldn't a good
someone on
thriller? Wouldn't it be a good thriller if they said that they went away, but then a character from the dark servers arrived in one of the other servers? Wait, that's impossible. They shut you down. I'm too powerful to shut down.
that sounds like
Were you doing some Darth Vader breathing there? I thought I heard some. Yeah, that's a good point. Is how long? How what what the what did how, what kind of time period are we talking about with the dark servers actually being available?
I have a feeling I haven't decided on that yet, but I have a feeling it's going to. I'm pretty sure it's going to be less than 6 months.
I was thinking right around that time frame would probably be it, because you'd want to have them open for a while, but not forever.
Right.
So.
Now, speaking of 6 months, at around the 6 months mark, in other words, somewhere late August, or early September, and all that stuff, they are going to be reviewing the populations on the 32-bit servers and seeing which ones are still active and which ones does it look like everybody seems to have moved off. And let's just say that if there's a server there that just seems to be completely, not maybe one or two people popping in, but nobody else or anything like that, then those servers, they are going to try to encourage people to migrate, shall we say. Now, a
Move it or lose it.
Yeah, essentially that's what's coming. So they are going to try to encourage people to move from the more dead. Now, one of the things that they noted is that Treebeard is one of the lowest population servers in there, and that Treebeard does have a reputation on not being very, very active in there. And
Yeah, of
they
course.
are not.
I'd like to point out, Pineleaf, that it is Treebeard. So what you're dealing with is you've got regular latency.
Yeah.
And then you're dealing with Ent communication protocol. Yeah, it's going to take.
Yeah. But in any case, but they say that Treebeard is not going to be exempt when they go and examine the various servers and deciding which ones are active enough to maintain and which ones are going to be looked at for potential shutdown. I think they're going to say probably give a few months after that before they actually shut down any of them. But as I said, that will only be if a server is not being particularly active. Any 32-bit worlds that are actually active and still vibrant communities in there, they do intend to keep those in operation. I don't know what's going to happen with Landroval, for example. Is Landroval planning to mainly move over to Peregrine, or people at Landroval want to stay at Landroval because it's Landroval,
I feel like it's going to be a mixed bag, of course.
It's going to be a mixed bag in there.
I think the thing that would push most people to go, though, would be just the understanding of the improvement in performance and latency might be the deciding factor for everybody.
Well, I have a feeling that one of the factors in it is that I think Weatherstock is going to move, and if Weatherstock moves, that means a large number of population, or at least are going to have alt on the new server on
I
there.
know. If I go to Weatherstock and I get around 500 people in Weatherstock and it's only dropped me to like 20 frames a second, I'm going to cry. That performance is going to be amazing. I remember just getting I remember getting to Weatherstock. You'd be like riding along, do 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 tick, and then you'd freeze for 3 minutes, and you're like, I must be at Weatherstock now. So
Yes.
that's well, I think what's cool about that. So I know it feels like kind of a mixed bag, but I think what would be cool about that if all the Weatherstock people moved to Peregrine, then you have the whole everybody there, all the groups are there. You might even feel maybe because they all I know that group. There's a group that you and I think Runt are with that do the music performances in different places. I don't know if they've been doing that lately, but where you guys they'd go and do a like a concert somewhere, and all the role players would show up, and um, I just have a feeling that maybe the music scene would become more vibrant on Peregrine if you had everybody in one spot. Period. Not just for Weatherstock, but they're there all the time.
Well, I don't know. Because I that's what I'm thinking. What Crick Hollow is going to do because Crick Hollow has a rather large music culture in itself. So I don't know whether they would move to Peregrine in order to do what you're just saying, or if they will just to make sure that Glamdring music has a music culture of some type that they would move there in order to make sure that there's some over in that direction. So I'm not too sure which one they'll do. Same thing, of course, with Laurelin, which I suspect that Laurelin, if they move, they will most likely go over to Meriadoc. Of course, that's all they're going. Now they did talk about languages, in that they are going to on the two that are in the EU try to set up chats in there so that they would have a couple of chat channels that are marked for German and a couple of them that are marked for French, so that even though they won't have their own servers like they have on the 32-bit servers, they will at least be able to have channels dedicated to them where they could communicate without having English speakers complaining about them talking in different languages.
Yeah, but then couldn't the English speakers just join those channels and continue to complain?
Do you know customer service does not like when people do that?
I think you would become SSG would not consider you. They wouldn't be a fan of you anymore.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that customer service would be very, very quick in throttling you. More likely from the technical perspective rather than other definitions of the word.
Right.
But
yeah, that'd be a bad day when you did that. You look out your window, they're like, they have a cave troll.
yes. So I would say that if you are going to complain about things like that, don't do it in their own areas. True.
Yeah, go into your room, close the door. Complain. Walk out of your room, sit back down at your computer.
But in any case, yes, they're hoping to have some dedicated chat channels for them. So I don't know whether they could do that only for the EU servers or if they'll just do them for all the servers just because. I mean, in fact, it could be useful if they did that on the North American servers also, because I'm sure that there's some people in Quebec that would really love to have a French channel that they could speak in.
Yeah. Well, and of course, you feel like you might be able to accomplish those things with the custom channels that you can set up as well.
Yeah, you could also, if they can't do it, then I will say that probably the custom channels will pop up within a day, probably, and that the forums in question will publish what the chat channels are or anything like that.
That's kind of interesting because I remember there were several custom channels that were for like raiders, and I wonder if we'll see any of those channels come back to life in the moves too.
Well, that I don't know. Now, they did mark that there is one thing that, of course, houses do not transfer, as we said before. Instead, you just get the marks in question, the housing writs in question. The other thing they said that will not transfer over is progress in the legendary reward track. So therefore, if you are at 99 out of 100 on your reward track, you might want to wait a couple of days till you hit 100 on there to finish the reward track before you transfer all your main characters over. So that you can at least get the reward from there before going to the server with the new reward track. Now, if they have this thing happening around in the middle of February, then that'll be just around at the time when the new reward track starts. So I think the middle of February would be a real nice, ideal time for all this to happen so that we'll be early in the reward track. We won't have to worry about too much progress being lost and all the like, but we have no idea how close they can get to an ideal time on the matter. And as I said, if you are nearing level 100 on there, then I suggest that you wait until you hit level 100, if you care about the reward track, of course, before you go and transfer your main characters over so that you have some hope of actually finishing the track before moving. And I think that is everything relating to the 64-bit servers that I can think of. Now, do you have any questions?
Well, what I'm excited about, because this has bothered me for quite some time,
yeah,
are you guys pretty excited about the enhanced capability and the potential benefit of NLT? You don't know what NLT is?
I do not know.
It is non-latent trampling. If I can
Yes.
trample people without latency, do you understand what power SSG has just given me? I'm not only going to be able to trample hobbits, humans, elves. I'm going to be able to trample treants, Mumex. Do you want to see a 500-ton Mumek fly at 3,100 kilometers a second? If I can have this power, then all might flee the new servers because no one will be immune from my trampling. I will trample it all. I could have destroyed the One Ring right away. I just would have trampled it.
Beating it into the ground.
And then probably some other hobbit would dig it up.
Oh, digging around making a new house. There you go.
I'm just interested to see how it all plays out. I know there's a lot of speculation. I'm sure those guys are trying to wrap their head around this project because this is a non-trivial project for SSG. So
this is when I'm very glad for my job and that my job is not their job and I just get to enjoy the fruits of their labor.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, one of the things they did note is that they have no intention currently to saddle customer service with policing names on the RP servers, unless, of course, they're flagrant violations just by the regular violations that they have in there. But they're not going to be super strict on enforcing that it's a lore appropriate name.
And oh no! See, that always takes me. That's non-immersive to me. It's just like
I know.
I was applied to the canon, so it's like Aragorn, Legolas, and Wimpy Willie 72 defeated the Balrog. It's like what? What?
Yes, that is unfortunately but I know that the people on some of the RP servers will wish that they could go back to the enforcement levels they had back in the Codemaster days, but they made it pretty clear that it is unlikely to happen, especially in the early days of the server when you've got all these people coming over and you can be pretty sure that the customer service people are going to be overloaded during that time period. And the last thing they need is to have getting all these complaints about someone being called su- about something being called Super Joe Fighter or something like that.
Yeah.
I just keep thinking about Knuckles Sandwich. I'd be like, okay, like it's really funny. Like it'd be sad to see some of those. I think the brawlers would probably be the biggest people who are like, you can't take our names because they're so punny.
Yeah.
Well, those are not, but those aren't. I mean, that's for fun, I guess. You know, it's
But
not
they're
this just
not.
blatant
They're not
tossing away
more
of.
appropriate, you know.
Well, but okay, yeah, you're right. But like professional wrestlers, you don't necessarily know them by their first names or their names, right? They have like a moniker. So Krister Cuffs is like the name of Krister's up and coming. I think he was a Hobbit. Now I'm thinking about it, but yeah. Well, I know what you mean. It's just that stuff's okay to me. It's just the blatant disregard at all for any thought into your name. Just or the just uh, you know uh, radiation supplies 7. It's just like what, huh? So yeah, but I love the nonsensical stuff in terms of just applying it. That's why, as you guys know, I have an obsession with filth and goo in LOTRO because I can't even conceive of how these have become things.
So we have Gooster then.
Oh, the Goost. Because GOOOOOOSE. Oh my goodness, I got it. Okay, well, you came. I'm reserving that name. Uh, but at the end of the day, with the server moves too, it's just gonna. At the end, it's going to be the right thing to do and get on the latest technology. And this, you want to talk? I mean, this must be like a light, just going from cavemen to skyscrapers type of move in terms of their infrastructure as well. So I bet you there
We'll
are at
have to
least
see.
many ways about this. You bring it down to 4 servers as well. You would expect, well, theoretically,
Yeah,
depending on
because
what they're
there
posing.
are some people who are going to be staying on to the 32-bit
Yeah,
servers, I'm
yeah.
pretty sure.
And just in terms of management, it would be so much easier to manage far less servers as well. So I feel like it's a win-win for them, but there's a huge chasm filled with lava that they have to cross first. But once they get over there, everything's going to be fine. So
We'll see how it works. It's going to be quite an experience. So 2025 is going to be the year of the of the great server move and what's going on in there, and some people migrating, some people not. Some people saying, "Nah, I'll wait maybe for several months, then decide which one I want to go to," because I'm pretty sure that some of the 32-bit servers are going to lose population, and losing population, that means the lag on some of those servers can go down, at least for mid-range characters.
maybe. I don't know how
Because
my confidence levels
one of
are.
the because sometimes you get lag because of someone happens to be going along in an area, and their area happens to be at the same location as Minas Tirith on subserver. And if you have to be on Minas Tirith subserver, you're in trouble because you're picking up Minas Tirith lag, even though you're in an area that doesn't have its own lag. So they're hoping to be better able to have that thing not happening on the 64-bit servers, because they could pin certain areas so that so the Minas Tirith could keep its lag to itself.
Yeah, that's great too. If that's the case, because we have done that too, where you experience the lag. Well, Weatherstock, I guess, would be a classic example of that.
Yeah.
You enter a zone and you die.
Well, yeah, because if you happen to be on the same server as Weatherstock, you're in a lot of trouble. I have a feeling that Weatherstock is very definitely an area is one that would be pinned, so that okay, we're gonna have this one subserver that is going to be dedicated just for Weatherstock. For today, this thing is reserved for Weatherstock. That's all that we're going to do with this particular area.
That's actually that's cool too. That's actually kind of cool.
That's speculation, of course, that they're going to do it that way. But I do know that Weatherstock, they do try to monitor that because they have to raise the. That's what they have to set it so that there won't be any layering for Weatherstock, and when that happens, you're talking about lags. Well, anyone who's been to Weatherstock knows it's lag city. But if you have to be far away from Weatherstock and not on that subserver, you don't know about the lag.
You should never know about the lag.
You should know about the lag, yes. All right, that takes care of everything I know of relating to this. Any more questions, comments? Maybe Mary Rose has something that she wishes to ask.
Not something to ask, but Mary Rose does say, "Watch out, or Krister will trample you down."
That's right. They never know when I'm going to go off, and frankly, neither do I. I'm kind of random. So.
Mm-hmm. All right. So that means if Krister has anything on any of the EU servers, he'll transfer them to Orcrist so that he could Orcrister stuff.
Oh boy, why didn't I even think about that?
You just did now.
Can Orcrister in the EU.
Orcrister on the Orcrist.
It's just that it won't be lag free.
That's right. That's great too because you can do your name by displaying your server too, right? Or
Uh-huh.
Oh no, you can't display your server. You can say of Dale or from Dale or. Am I going insane right now?
Of Orcrist.
Yeah, of Orcrist.
Oh,
that would be awesome.
Actually, you can have server names are legitimate social titles. And in fact, what they have is that anyone, for example, I have several characters that were created on Winfola, and those characters do have a title that
you're right.
They do have a title that says of Winfola, and also for whatever server they're current. I think they might have just eventually just said, "Oh, let's forget about this individual titling," and opened it up. But at the very least, you have the one from the server where you were during the Great Transfer Day, and I think where you went to also, maybe. I don't know about the other stuff. So it's possible they could do the same thing over here, is that when you transfer over, you will have the of name from your original server as well as to whatever your new server is.
Oh, I might have to just do that on principle now. So Orcrister must live.
Orcrister was Krister of Orcrist. Well, actually, no, you'd have to go to Orcrist in order to get that.
Yeah, so Orcrister of Orcrist. Although maybe I could type that. I don't think we have the character limit for that. That I could type that name in. Orcrister of Orcrist. I don't think you could do that.
I have a feeling that having Orcrist in your name is probably going to be filtered out.
Do you think they'd accept a character name that was just all fives?
I'm pretty sure they would reject such a name. I mean, we're talking about a system that rejects the name Needles, right?
Oh, that's right. You're absolutely right. So every step I try, they just every time I try to move forward, they pull me back.
Yeah.
You could have been like pine leaf cones. I mean, it didn't have to be Needles.
Pine cone leaves.
Well, the other thing that was announced this week, this of course is taking a backseat to all the 64-bit server stuff, is that they do expect the first bulber for update 43 to be open next week. We will see whether or not they can get that up. The highlights for update 43 are it's going to include the raid. So perhaps I don't know if the bulber build will have the raid in it yet. Most likely it'll have maybe the first boss or the first wing or something like that. But I don't think they'll have the full raid ready for testing in Bulber yet. And the other thing that will likely be in it will be many of the quality of life things that are planning. So we'll probably have quite a number of release notes to read next week and discuss
I'm
what
preparing
new
myself
quality of
now.
life things we could have.
All right, next week I'll have plenty of coffee.
Yes. And maybe they'll also have some elf updates because I think they need still to do a few more tweaks to the elf avatars in order to get them where they want them to be because I know that there's still a couple of bugs in there.
Do they have like gigantic noses and like rounded ears?
Well, I don't know what the issues are with the elves right now, but they had they do have certain problems that they were having with the elf avatars that people are complaining about. So I think they also want to address those. So there are all sorts of things that are going to be in the update. And we'll see. There's probably going to be for update 43 a continuation of the epic storyline, but as usual, I'm pretty sure that they're not going to have that on Bulwer because they like to save that as a surprise. So let's go into our store sales and see what we need to do if you got me playing LOTRO on a snow day.
Sorry.
Cinders?
Yes, I muted my mic because I've got a dog cracking a water bottle in the background. Sorry, and then I forgot I didn't turn it back on. Store sales today. You can stand out from the crowd and get 10% off of select shared wardrobe, select cosmetic outfit slots, mounted combat trait specs, and select cosmetics now through January 16th. And you can also, with weekly coupon Snow Day, get free white dye through January 16th as well.
Hooray!
So if you need a white dye, now's the time to get it.
Right, then let's into our week in LOTRO. And Christopher, what were you up to?
You skipped
Well, we're
my
hanging out with.
wonderful question, Pine Leaf.
Oh, you had a question. Oh, okay. Yes, all right. You snuck in a little bit in there. All right.
I announced I was doing it.
Oh, obviously I didn't hear you when you announced it. Sorry.
It's okay. I forgive you.
All right, so what's your question?
My question is, when you change your home, will you also change the location? I.e., if you have a house in Belfalis, would you consider changing it to Lindleby or somewhere else? Or will you stick with it has to be Belfalis?
Well, first off, I currently have a house in both Belfalis and Lindleby. And I have several characters that have Belfalis houses on several servers. So most likely I'm going to have a little bit of extra writ around. So so
you're gonna try
most
and get
likely
both
have
again?
enough. Yeah, the question is, of course, which ones I want. I'll probably try to see if I can get the same address at Belfalis because I do like having something that's on the shore so that I could fish. Now, if I find something that might be better for a fishing location, if mine is taken and there's one that's open that looks like it could be even better for fishing, then maybe I will consider getting that. Maybe I'll get a bigger house. That's a possibility. Because right now I have one of the smaller houses. Now, of course, it might be that getting the smaller houses might be easier than getting one of the bigger ones. So if that's the case, then maybe my address will be open because it is a small house. Now, on Lindleby, I have a rather large house there. So I got to decide, all right, do I really want this back corner house? And I find myself using the Belfalis house a lot more than the Lindleby house. And one of the reasons is I think because I have this waterfall, I think, right next to my house. So it's very, very loud there. So I don't go to Lindleby nearly as often as I go to Belfalis, where I have the bay, which is much quieter. So I'll most likely get a Belfast house. What I do for the other areas, I don't know yet, but I may hold off at least enough of some of my script for when they open up the housing over in Rivendell and seeing what they'll have over there.
Nice. Krister, how about you?
Krister basically kind of camps out behind the Prancing Pony, so that's not going to change no matter what server he's on.
So Krister is homeless.
That would be a. He's got a mobile home. It's his horse.
Got a mobile. You have one of those mobile homes that you have over in Waymeet.
That's right.
What about you, Cinders?
Well, so I currently have premium houses in Lindleby and the 2 Rohan housing neighborhoods. And I think I will probably stick with Lindleby and then look for just one of the Rohan housing areas.
Yeah, she'll pull up all of her money and get one of those. Was it meat halls?
Maybe. Except you have to, I think, be a kin leader to get a meat hall.
No, not for our meat hall. No, they were
Oh.
experimenting with the Rohan one, where the big
Okay.
house. They decided that instead of making it a formal kin hall, they made it so that anyone could theoretically buy one of those things. But I think they were like super expensive or something like that. So they suspect that someone who's a kin leader might be able to more easily get donations from members of the kin in order to buy a meat hall than most people. So
Well, then definitely, yeah, that's what she's doing. Because so I had, before we realized that the fire pits were really only for the big meat halls, I'd already gotten some on M. So I would love to be able to use those big fire pits.
Anyway, you could double check to see, visit a meat hall at some point and find out if what I said is true, just in case things changed.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. All right, let's into our weekend gaming. Krister, what were you up to?
Well, the main topic of conversation within the kin was, of course, the upcoming server moves and talking about all the different things, and so I think everybody's just basically aglow with that and seeing how that plays out. And getting Krister ready to attempt to raid again. And boy, it's not a lot of work, but it feels like a lot of work. So I'm trying to get my motivation up for that. And then this week I dabbled a little in ESO, Starship Evo, Cyberpunk 2077, and Path of Exile. I played that. It's an incredibly frustrating game. So that was my week in gaming. Cinders, what were you up to?
So I did not have as much time to game as I would have liked to, so I've been trying to sneak it in around different activities I've had going on where I could. So I played Dragon Quest Builders 2, and I've gone back to the Isle of Awakening now that I've defeated the Medusa and completed the Crumble Dune chapter. And so I am currently in the middle of building a Great Pyramid on the Isle of Awakening. And then I opened and played Animal Crossing New Horizons again for the first time in a year and a week, as my residents informed me. They were like, "We haven't seen you in like a year and a week." I'm like, okay, you're right. And apparently, I never participated in the fishing tourneys until I did today. So I was just dinking around at my parents' house on my Switch Lite with my Animal Crossing game opening while my dad was sewing. And I did a fishing tourney in the little 3 minutes, and they were like, "You have Nook Miles," or whatever they are for getting it. I was like, really? And then I looked at it, and I haven't done a spring or a summer or a fall fishing tourney. I've only done the winter one, and I did it today. So I did that. And then I continued advancing through the final area in Song of Waves and Wind with Pineleaf's Runekeeper. I did drag him back through the wasp nest again, but this time he didn't die, so that was a win. Pineleaf, how was your week?
All right. Well, first off, my Mariner completed the latest installment of the Song of Ways and Winds, so I'm all nice and caught up for when the next set of content does come out for it. So that means I have 2 characters to finish it. My Lore Master finished it a couple of months ago. And my Warden finished questing in the 3rd region of the latest, and I just crossed the bridge into the new area and lit the campsite, so I'll be ready to go and quest into the 4th region the next time I log on to there. And my Lore Master continued preparing Adoras for that trip to Dunharrow. The Players Alliance has an email address, podcast@loachplayers.com, where you can send any comments that you have. And if you wish, we will read them onto the show and respond to whatever questions you have there. We have 2 shows on Saturdays, 8:30 p.m. EST time. We have Loach Players News, and we record DDO Players News when Drac is available. You can choose our shows at loachplayers.com/live. And that is all for tonight. And this is Pilot Needles reminding you to skirmish responsibly.